Man, and I run Silverline Comics, the genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. And I'm here to tell you about our latest Kickstarter. I'm not going to waste any more time talking. John, tell us about Sniper and Rook.
Hey there. Thanks for stopping by. My name is John Medic, and I am the creator and writer of Sniper and Rook, now coming to you from Silverline Comics. Thanks for checking out our Kickstarter, and we hope that you'll go ahead and pledge. A little bit about Sniper and Rook. They are a pair of covert government operatives where they work underneath a specific general. They are tasked with missions that take them across the globe, across the world, across maybe the universe, since we're dealing with Area 51. Check it out. Pledge today.
Thanks, John. And now I get to tell you about the rejects. Come on, I'm so excited to tell you about this one.
When danger is near, we need heroes who can respond decisively and with authority. When evil is around, we need superheroes who can fight supervillains. But what do you do when the Fantastic Four is busy? When the Justice League is unavailable? When the Avengers are out of the galaxy? The world has no other option. They call the Rejects. Rejected by all other respectable superhero teams, this band of misfits joins together to fight crime and injustice, and maybe get a mention on the evening news. They are formidable, ferocious, fearless, and forgettable.
John and I are so excited. Together for like 2 years now. Maybe 2 years. Something like that. It's been a while. So, back it if you can, share it if you will, and remember to make mine Silverline.
Hello everybody, welcome to Silverline Show on Tuesday. I am Curtis Fujita, filling in for the fearless Tim TK, who's not available tonight. And with me are Quentin Bedwell and Jose Fuentes. Hey guys, how's it going?
Awesome. Hey everybody.
All right, very good. Well, let's get the show started by everybody introducing themselves and kind of sharing a little bit about yourselves. So let's start with Quentin. Quentin, feel free to tell the folks about you and what you're working on.
Quentin Bedwell, working on the third book of Trumps, as well as some other stuff. I've done some games, not video games, board games, and card games. I currently, as a day job, work in the printing industry, and just having a lot of fun doing some Silverline titles. Had a couple titles over in the Christmas special, and also got some other stuff in the works coming up. Also, one of those that's announced is Night Rise. You can find that on Facebook. Go like the page, and that's where you can get some updates about the title.
Definitely. And isn't Night Rise, there's a story of Night Rise inside the Christmas special, is that right?
That's right. Sure is. Gives you a real good introduction to the characters and the world. And yeah, it's a cute little story, but it's very good for an introduction into the world.
Excellent, excellent. And Jose, feel free to share a little bit about yourself to everybody watching.
Hi, I'm Jose, and I did digital inks for a story in the Christmas special for Kalis, and I am the inker for Obsoletes.
Excellent. I am Curtis Fujita, as I mentioned. I'm the creative director at Silverline. I'm also a Kung Fu instructor, and so my upcoming comic book that I'm writing and drawing for Silverline is called Shadow Ghost. It's the Kung Fu comic by a Kung Fu master, so that's me. So before we get to the topic of the show, let's go ahead and just kind of talk a little bit about news. First of all, we do currently have a crowdfunding campaign that's almost completely fulfilled for two special titles, Rejects #1, as well as Sniper and Rook. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go ahead and share the screen. Let me make sure I can do this right. Just a minute. Oh, I guess not. Well, I'll talk about it. How's that sound? So yeah, it's on Kickstarter right now. We are just $75 away from being fulfilled. Yeah, so it's very, very close. And both titles are really cool, really fun. They're both 2 first issues. There's the Rejects, which I think is pretty fun. Sounds exactly like what it is. It's basically about the Reject superhero team. And that's illustrated by C. Michael Lanning, written by Roland Mann, inked by Tommy Flormonte, and I believe the colors are by Haley Martin. Really cool series. And my personal favorite hero, I think it's kind of cool on it, is Hot Flash.
Oh my goodness.
I think that is.
That's good. That's
Isn't that
good.
good? Isn't that good? I mean,
That is good.
I think Roland did a really good job casting that, creating that character. So make sure to check that out. And the other title is Sniper and Rook, and that's written by John Medic III. And it's I guess you could say a crime-fighting duo, but also has elements of almost like X-Files, working with Area 51 and stuff like that. And this is Sniper and Rook's appearance in, I guess, what we could call the Silverline universe. So make sure to go check that on Kickstarter and back it. We appreciate everybody backing all our books, and also all our books are almost already completely finished by the time we go to crowdfunding, which is one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other people doing comic books on crowdfunding. You are essentially guaranteed to get the book in your hands shortly after all funds are taken care of. So,
and like in the case of Sniper and Rook, I believe it's 100%, isn't it? Complete.
I think so. I think you're correct. I think that's what I heard. So definitely. So please check it out. And to everybody that has backed it, we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody sharing. We love making comic books, and we really appreciate everybody's support. So, anywho, let's get down to the subject at hand. So tonight's subject is artistic license, pros and cons. And so that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we have 3 people here with their thoughts on it. So I'll open up the floor. Does anybody have any thoughts? Just generally speaking, when you hear the word artistic license, what does that conjure up in your mind?
Well, I think I really wouldn't call it putting your own stamp on something. I know that a guy told me one time when I was airbrushing, that's been years ago. That was just, I think, in the 90s. He told me, if you're having to duplicate something for a customer, you need to take some artistic license not to duplicate the flaws. And so that's one thing I learned from there. And, because I was having to duplicate Marilyn Manson thing, and that was big back then. And the guy had drawn his fingers really weird. And so I had to, and I was doing it exactly like what the guy wanted. But, the guy that I was kind of working under, he said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that with the fingers. Yeah. So that's a version of artistic license. And then there's, you see these different iterations of Spider-Man. Todd McFarlane took a little bit of license with Spider-Man. Y'all remember that? The big, the regular classic eyes went to big, huge eyes, and the webs were all going around like a rodeo.
The legs were triple, quadruple jointed.
Yeah.
Right.
His huge capes on Batman, and man, just some great stuff. Great stuff.
Definitely. Before we continue further, Quentin, did you have any artwork you wanted to share while?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Let me share it up on the screen.
All right. Let's take a look.
And I'd like to say before we go on too, thank you, Mr. Curtis, for coming in and and hosting us tonight.
You're welcome. My pleasure. It's kind of fun to interact with you guys live and direct. We don't always get the chance, and for Jose and I, we have only maybe briefly in the past had some type of interactions. This is great. All right. So Quentin, feel free to tell us about what is everybody looking at? What are you working on?
We are looking at a splash page. I don't want to say who the character is if you can't already tell.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm doing a splash page for Trump's book 3, and it's going to be a pretty momentous page. I'm kind of penciling. I am doing it digitally, so this is my form of penciling. So you can see there, I get the form down, and I kind of tighten up on the face a bit.
Mhm.
And then I come back with a second one to do all the costume details and all that, which is what I'm doing right now. So hopefully I can get quite a ways on this during the stream. I
That's
hope to.
great. And so, I think we might have a little bit of a similar workflow. I mean, you're kind of going more or less after a breakdown to inks, right? I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
it's just as easy for me.
yeah,
Like the render when it comes to rendering and all that stuff, it is just as easy for me to do like a half pencil and then go straight to inks.
yeah.
It's just easier. There's no point in getting somebody else to do it. I mean, if somebody requests, hey, we want this other guy to do the inks, then that's totally fine. But it's just as easy for me doing it digitally if I just go ahead and do it all together.
Agreed. I was having challenges getting an inker to work on my book. I got one person that didn't work out, and then was trying to get a replacement. And I had a bunch of friends that were looking at my pages, and they were like, "Wait, those are pencils?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "They look pretty tight." And I kind of thought about it. And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, digitally, all I have to do, especially with Clip Studio on my iPad, is just tap with these two fingers, and I can undo something. And
Yeah,
so then the realization was like, oh, holy cow, I can just go straight to inks on this, and get
that
moving on
is
it.
the luxury of digital is you can
Yeah,
just go ahead and go right into it if you're good at inking. Which I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I'm the best at inking, but I mean, it saves a lot of time. It saves an entire step for somebody.
mhm,
Saves just all the way around.
definitely. And I mean, the only thing that I miss is seeing kind of like the baton get passed to somebody else and seeing their kind of interpretation.
Yep.
But I feel like so much of comic books is like production, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah,
what,
it's
what looks
definitely
best.
a real split.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and Jose, do you digitally, or do you everything by hand, or what's your process
Both
like?
actually. My
Oh,
favorite way to ink is traditional because I like to incorporate gray tones, and like I like using ink wash on my stuff that I do, but I like physically doing it, which is
sure.
funny because growing up I hated the feel of cardboard. I hated the feel of like any
Really?
kind of texture on my hands. Yeah, it just drove me bonkers. But like going to school, it really gave me a love and appreciation for like traditional style inking.
Mhm.
But everything I'm doing right now is just digital, just because of time constraints.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to get everything done as quickly. I know when I did the Kalis pages in the Christmas special, I think I had like maybe 3 or 4 weeks to get them done. I think less than that. And he's like, by the way, I had these pages, but you got to work on them fast. I'm like, okay. And like
That
if
that's me.
anybody's seen Thomas Hedlund's pencils, they're really tight and
Yeah.
really detailed. So like I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do that. I'm not gonna sleep for 2 days, but I can do it.
now, now, do you also use Clip Studio, or do you use Procreate, or what's
I
your
I use Clip Studio on my iPad.
yeah. God,
I
I
also have it
wish
on my MacBook, but like I don't really use it as often.
yeah,
Um, it's just easier using my Apple Pencil with my
yeah.
MacBook, and then I have Photoshop and Illustrator on my MacBook for coloring, and I used to use Illustrator for inking,
Oh,
like
really?
before I ever had Clip Studio.
Yeah. Yeah, Clip Studio is like the sports car for me for comic book creation. I mean, it's just so intuitive and everything that I want, more or less.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
using Procreate. You're
Oh, no.
Me?
using
I'm,
Curtis.
oh, I
Oh,
think
So
I
you
think.
actually use Clip, huh?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm one of the
That's
cool kids,
awesome. Yeah.
you know.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
not like
Hey,
those other people, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
No, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, I love that I can be watching TV in bed and the wife's asleep, and I can do some inking in bed. I mean, how cool is that, or I could
that's
be on the
cool.
plane and doing inking, and my hands look
Yeah, and
I'm
as
done.
opposed to sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. For the week.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I don't think I could multitask as much as I am on my project without it being digital. It would just it would be too unbearable. You know?
That's me. I used to have like a light table and all that stuff,
I still
and
do.
oh my goodness, I can't. I wear so many hats around here.
Mhm.
There's just no way, time wise, that I can get it all done. Uh, yeah.
Well, you know, that kind of brings us back around to the subject. This is my attempt at a segue about artistic license. So artistic license, I mean, all of us have our own part of the process in this kind of collaborative effort that is comic books, right? So like I'd be curious for Jose, how much artistic license do you feel as an inker that you like to play around with, or does it vary from project to project? How do you navigate that kind of idea of putting your stamp on it but still staying true to the
I think it
there?
for me it varies between the project because I like to communicate,
Mhm.
with the penciler if I did it. Like I said, when I did the K-list pages, I would message Thomas Hedgeland and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like this particular thing I inked over your pencils, like what do you think? Is this what you were going for? And you know what I mean? Just
Mhm.
feedback back and forth. And I did the same thing with the pages I've turned in for obsoletes. I'd ask Aaron Humphreys did the pencils for it. So I'd ask him, it's like, hey, what do you think about this? Or like a particular character, instead of like coloring her hair black, because there's other characters that have like black ink in their black for their hair. I was like, what if I put a gradient and then added a halftone for it, like instead, like to change it up a little bit. He's like, oh, I love that. Go, yeah, do that. Like, I like adding my own little twists, and I like that people so far have been pretty receptive to it. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying, "Oh no, I want it done exactly like this." Like I've had pencilers like that I've done that for, but like I prefer if we can bounce the idea back and forth. I can make your art look good and still it be noticeable as my inks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the fascinating thing is, with everything we do, right, there's the historical reason for inking, right, which was essentially to make it reproducible,
Right.
for print. But with digital printing and all that stuff, you could technically take a book straight from pencils to print in this kind of modern era. And so it's fascinating to see where it becomes more of the artistic interpretation than the necessity for print, and that's what's so great about inking where it is now. I mean it had transitioned to that long before, but even more so now. I think that's kind of the necessity for it is more the creative necessity than anything else, wouldn't you say?
I can agree with that. Yeah. Um, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah.
I think of it. Just to add a little bit here. I know that sometimes writers, as good as they are, and you get here hands on sometimes, and you're going from the script to the page, and you're trying to figure and reconnoiter all this stuff out. Sometimes there's just some stuff that just doesn't translate as well, I think, as the writer intends.
Mhm.
And there you just really have to take, like when it comes to pacing, or uh, maybe there's not that the writer's making a mistake at all, or but like when you're here hands on and you're seeing it unfold
Mhm.
in the panels, sometimes it just doesn't. So sometimes you have to take a little bit of artistic license and throw maybe something in there, or maybe sometimes you have to merge a panel. Sometimes
Mhm.
you have to separate a panel. You have to
Yeah.
add a panel or two, just to kind of get the thought across of what's supposed to be happening as opposed to what's just written. It would be nice if you could just go off of what was written, but I mean, that unfortunately, that's just not always the case. And I think you should always do it with a level of respect, that you do what is asked for, but at the same time, uh, do what serves the story, because that's what the writer wants, is the story to go forward and not be hindered by something being skipped, or something, going too fast or too slow, or not enough emphasis on facial expressions to react, or, stuff like that. I think sometimes you just have to add a little bit of artistic expression, in there. That's one way that I know I have to use that. I've done it a few times here. I added a few panels here and there. Not that Roland, the writer, did anything wrong whatsoever, but it was just stuff that I thought kind of helped it along as well. So, and there's been no complaints yet with I don't do it often either. I try not to do any edits or anything that's going to change what he's got. I just want to throw that out there. I don't think that's a good thing. If you do that, that's a little different. I've heard of artists taking writers, stuff and really coming out with stuff that was not intended at all ever. And
Yeah.
So what? No Edward Nortons?
yeah,
Is he notorious for that?
He's notorious. Like, evidently, one of the clauses in, like, when he signs on to do a role is, I want the option to be able to rewrite, do some rewrites.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which I thought was interesting. Like, someone's okay with that.
I think you're. Is it just
a little
me?
bit.
I think you might be a little. Your voice is a little discombobulated. Like, it sounds a little robotic. I don't know if it's.
Oh.
Oh, there we
There
go.
it
We're
is.
back.
Yeah, you're
better.
back.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the thing that's really kind of cool about comic books production is the idea that it's multiple people steering the ship at different times. It's not really like one person is guiding it all the way through per se, right? Every time it gets handed off to the next person, and they're the lead at that moment in the production, right? Whereas, normally I think we almost think of it like, one person steering the ship and everybody else follows, but really everybody almost leads at one point, during it. It's just
definitely
an interesting process. So that's great.
Well, it is so much work. People do not realize how much work is involved in making a comic. Just something that you're thumbing through. Man, you think about this, that somebody sat and thought and wrote down everything that you're looking at in that book, and then somebody sat down and they penciled it and paid attention to the composition of the entire page and then the composition of each panel.
Yeah.
And then had to take into account word bubbles and who's talking first and who's talking second. And then there's all these rules that are involved in it, like your sight lines and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot that is involved in it. And, for one person, and I've done it, I did a book back in 2009, my own book, published it, sold a few copies. It was never anything super big, but it was something that I was afraid if I didn't get it out of me, I was just going to burst, for one. And two, I wanted to get it out there so that nobody else would do it, because I had ideas in the past that I was going to do. And what do you know? Going to the comic store and there it is. Somebody else had beat me to it. And so I was going to get
brain.
I was going to get it out there before anybody else could. So it was a lot of work. I wrote it, I penciled it, I inked it, I colored it, published it. It was a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then, but when you get a team on that thing, holy moly. And I talked to Brian Pulido. I was at the, it was Albuquerque Comic-Con. And I think it was 2010. And that's what he kept telling me the whole time. Dude, you just need to get some help.
Yeah.
You need to get some help. You need a team. You need people that you can go to and that will, check your bad ideas or, help you out with this, help you out with whatever it is that you're doing. Don't do things alone. You'll burn out. And he was right. He was exactly right. But yeah, I mean, now whenever I do stuff and somebody else gets it, I can do coloring. I'm no Roberta. I'm no Barbara Kellberg. Yeah. But I do enough to get by, and I do it enough to where I feel okay with it, because I'm never 100% okay with my stuff, and unless I get away from it for a long time, then go back, and then I'm like, kind of like, that's not too bad, I guess. But you know, uh, that's a lot of work to do all of those jobs, wear all of those hats. When I let it go, I just let it go. I'm finished with it, and I just, whatever anybody else does with it after that, that's their thing.
Right.
No, definitely. Yeah, I'm learning that on my thing, because I'm doing, at least for the first issue, the whole shebang, and it's like, and my hope is after the first issue, it's kind of like everything visually is kind of set, the tone set, and then I can start getting more people to work with me, on it, but yeah, it's massive, I mean, it's a massive undertaking, and it always cracks me up. I don't know if you guys ever encountered this, as an artist, that's kind of fun thing. We're all artists here, so we get to talk art stuff, but it's like,
Right.
it's like how many family members or friends will say something just because you draw, they think it's easy. It's like, well, you
Yeah.
could start a t-shirt company. I mean, just start drawing and making t-shirts.
Oh man, I've
Right?
read that so much. Yeah.
Or you could start your own comic company. You can draw, just do it. And it's like, do you have any idea, not just in the production side, but all the steps and the marketing and the finance and all those things, right?
Yeah, you ought to turn it back on them. Hey, you know how to mow lawns. Why don't you start your own
Right.
landscaping service?
Yeah,
You can do
exactly.
it.
Yeah. exactly. Yeah, that always cracks me up when people say that. It's like, you have no idea, what it really takes.
My favorite is, oh man, you could probably make a ton of money doing tattoos.
Oh my goodness, I hear that all
Yeah.
the
I
time.
don't want to do
All the time.
tattoos.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, for me, it's like, if somebody says, oh, you can do all this money doing tattoos or having this or having that, yes, I would have to then devote all of my attention and all of my time to becoming the best at that specific
Right?
craft. It's a very specific craft. It's
Yep.
kind of like saying, you make a decent hamburger, so you could go ahead and open your own delicatessen. It's like, or you could open up your own restaurant. It's like, well, I could only make one burger, It's
Yeah,
Right.
once a day there's 3 burgers, and
Right.
hopefully we can
yeah.
Three
and they're-
people were eating
Yeah,
today. That's
they're
it.
all the Curtis special.
yeah, exactly.
What's the special today? The Curtis special. Every day.
Every day. Yeah, it's funny, in some ways it's like anything, right? Everybody notices, I used to teach art classes, and I would tell the students, it's like, nobody will give you credit for spending that extra 20 minutes fixing the pinky on that character, right?
Right.
But everybody will point out that pinky is wrong, whether they can draw or not. They're all going to see that it's wrong, and they're all going to point it out to you. And that's kind of the thankless job of being an artist, right?
Yep. My barometer, I'll show stuff to my wife, and
Uh-huh.
because she's seen my work, it's not really a big deal to her. She's
Yeah.
been saying it since we were married, 25 years ago. And if she notices something, or if she's, then I know that I've done something wrong in a certain area sometimes, unless she says, "Wow, I really like this."
Right.
But most of the time, if she notices something, then that means it's out of place. If she has to ask a question, then that means anybody else looking at it's going to ask that question, and that's going to take them out of the, the what would you call it, the immersion. So
Right.
yeah, that's how I usually judge a lot of my stuff, on that right there alone.
Yeah, my wife, I would show her my stuff, and she's like, "Oh, like this doesn't look right, and this doesn't look right, and this looks right." And I'll snatch it back and go to the table. She's like, "Are you mad at me?" He's like,
Yeah.
"No, I gotta go fix it."
Why can't you say what I want you to
Right.
say?
Of
Yeah,
course, I'm not mad.
yeah,
But both you bring up a good point too. It's kind of like, if you as an artist find yourself over explaining, then you as an artist may not have done the job.
Right.
yep.
I know, Jose, you graduated from the Kubert School, right?
I did.
And I graduated from the Academy of Art University, and I don't know, Quentin, if you went to art college or just had art classes, but it's always that thing where when it came time for review or whatever, everybody puts their pictures up on the wall or whatever, and there's always that one dude that goes like, "Hey, the proportions aren't right. I mean, this arm's longer than the other. Well, that's my style,
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
I have a
yeah.
story about that.
Oh, please
I'm
share.
not. I'm not going to mention any names, right? We had this kid in
Okay.
class. It was our first year at the Cuber School, and
Was this Peter Clinton, by the way? Just
no, that guy was a
I'm not going to
scrub
mention
the
any names,
entire
Peter.
time. That guy couldn't draw a straight line to save his life.
I did all his work for him.
That's right.
Take that, Pete.
But so this kid, like, we were supposed to do machines. I think I did a car, and another kid did a Tomcat. You know what I mean? Like, we picked different things, and this kid did like a motorcycle, but it was so ungodly out of perspective. And even the buildings in the background he used no ruler, no straight edge, like, for anything, right? And when our teacher's like, "Hey, did you even do this in perspective? Did you even use a ruler in, like, at all?" He's like, "No, not using a ruler is my style." And we're like, "That's not style. That's just lazy."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's like what?" Like, by the way, this is a ruler, right?
Yeah, that's I taught art classes before, and that was a thing the students would try to get by with is they thought it was a little disingenuous to be using techniques. Well, it's not
Yeah.
raw if I use the techniques, if I use scales, and I don't want my people to look like everybody else's people.
Yeah.
And that's all good to have your own signature, but at the same time, people should look like people. Their arms should not be down past their knees, and
Right.
proportion is proportion. You can't escape it.
Well, I think
Perspective, you can't escape it.
Well, you can
a big
take creative license,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's a difference between creative license and just not even trying.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're not willing to learn a few simple techniques and scales and to help your art. You can never learn if you don't unlearn your own way of doing things
Right.
sometimes.
Exactly. It's kind of like I think the thing, and this brings up a lot of things, but it's kind of like the art is the dialogue between you and the reader or the viewer, right? And if
Yep.
you don't care about how the reader or the person looking at the art interprets it, then you shouldn't be doing it. Years ago, I was doing some concept art stuff for in Hollywood for like this movie. It never came out, right? But it was like this crazy sci-fi movie and stuff, and we had all these different actors and actresses working on it. And one of the funniest ones was Eddie Griffin, if you're familiar with the comedian. But he was actually surprisingly extremely intelligent guy, right? And we were talking about it, and he said something once about it, and he said, about people who do art. No, I do my art for myself. I don't do it to show to other people, and that kind of whole bag, right? And he said,
Right.
if you are an artist, you owe it to people to show to them, because the art in your head is already perfect. The only reason you learn the skill to create something is because you want to put what's in your head out there for somebody else to see. So if you're going through
Yep.
that effort, you owe it to show it to other people, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, that otherwise, why are you doing it? I mean,
Right. That's
you know,
pretty solid.
yeah. So I thought that was pretty
That
deep.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say that before, well, it all I'm really interested in is it making me happy. But, if you just wanted to make you happy, then it would stay a thought in your head.
Yeah.
Right.
If you didn't want somebody to see it,
Yeah.
I usually, nobody likes for their work to be criticized, but we really need that to be
Mhm.
able to improve, to be able to get better. I know every bit of criticism that I've ever gotten, I've gotten some pretty hard criticism before, has done nothing but help me. It's at first it made me, really salty. Of course, I'm a real restrained person. I don't show it a lot of times, but it burns,
Yeah.
you know. But it just makes me want to try harder to get better. So
Yeah. I was outright told when I was younger that I can't draw. I should stop.
Really?
Yeah.
Who said such a thing?
Mean kids.
Well,
And his mom.
And my mom.
Yeah,
Get out there and get you a real
I
job,
know,
boy.
right?
that's the thing, right? Especially like if it's a professional and if there's somebody saying, oh, that's no good and this, it's like, well, then tell me how I can do it better or guide me. Otherwise,
Right.
you know what I mean? I mean, that's the thing, that's a huge part of it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's constructive. That's why whenever I post something in the chat, I always love what stuff you say, not because it's positive necessarily, but because you tell me, Curtis, why you like it.
Yeah.
And that helps me because that shows me, hey, and if you ever see anything that's not so good about it, I would appreciate, you to tell me that as well, which, I don't know if you'll do that, but, I would not mind at all. I always want to get better. I always want my stuff and I want our stuff
Mhm.
to look good,
Wait,
Cool.
we're able to critique ourselves? Critique
I
each
mean,
other?
just
Oh,
think,
Quentin, I tore you apart a long time ago. No,
just
just playing.
think if somebody would have been able to catch Rob Liefeld, I mean, and he gets a lot of flack, and I'm not giving him any flack for this. It just happened, we're not, all of us aren't proud of everything we've ever done, but that Captain America where he's got the
Ooh.
huge chest, I mean, just think if somebody would have been around him and able to say to him, "Hey, man, that chest, dude."
Right? Just a
Yeah.
simple bro.
Before
No.
it went out,
Yeah.
if somebody would have had the guts to say to Rob Liefeld, "Hey, dude, that chest is a little out there," then that would have never went out, and he would have never got all the flack he's gotten all these years over it.
Definitely. I do appreciate how he owns everything, though. From what I can tell, I've never
Yep,
seen him
Yeah.
go back and say,
I like him. A lot of
yeah,
people give him a real hard time, but you cannot take away what that guy, the what he's meant to the industry and just
mhm,
I remember I was the same age as him back in school when I was watching him
mhm,
draw all these things, or not quite the same age. I think he may have been a couple years older than me. Uh, and man, he was just a real inspiration to me to know that there's somebody there in the industry, that is where I want to be.
mhm.
It can be done, and I never forget that about him. He was a real inspiration to
I
me.
was definitely one of the guys that dogged on him. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, dude, you can't
Well,
draw
I have
feet to
to.
save your life, right?
Yeah.
But all the way up, and I did it a lot. Like, I would just trash it. And God love him. I do like Rob Liefeld stuff. But it wasn't until he did an interview where they're like, how do you feel about the fact that like everyone is talking smack about, the way you do particular things and whatnot? He goes, yeah, but they're talking about me.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Yeah.
whoa, like, you know what I mean? Like, holy cow,
That's
like I
halfway
didn't
there,
even
right?
think about it. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, old, like, bad press, good press, it's press.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
dang,
and
this guy's a genius.
I hope I think I told a story on the other show, so hopefully it's new to you guys. But I met him when I was working at Malibu. I was like 15 or whatever, right? And I went to Comic Con with Roland and the fellas, and they dragged me everywhere, even though I was underage. So I was at a bar with them.
Nice.
And at the bar at a table was, and this is like peak image, right? This is like right after they left Malibu and they're doing nothing. At the table was Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, and maybe
Wow.
it's Mark Silvestri. Jim Lee wasn't there, but I saw them and I was just like awestruck, right? So Roland and the guys were like, "Hey, why don't you go talk to them?" I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
crap." Well,
jeez.
okay, so I went up to them at this bar and I just kind of said, Curtis, I work at Malibu. I'm an editorial assistant. You guys are just amazing. I love your art. And they're just kind of like, yeah, thanks. And then of course, what do I do? This is my chance, right? Can I get your guys' autograph? And the first thing Todd McFarlane, and just rolls his eyes and attitude, right? And Rob,
As you
Liefeld,
know, he would.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Rob Liefeld was so cool. He just kind of stopped what he was doing, looked right at me. Hey, Curtis, oh, that's great. Yes, you work at Malibu. Good. Yeah, I can do something for you. So they had coasters and they all signed their names on the coaster. But Rob took the time and he drew a Bad Rock for me on the back
Nice.
of this coaster and gave it back to me and was like, well, it's nice to meet you. And it's like, you hear about people who have that talent, right? Where there's a moment where you're talking to them and you feel like you're the only person talking to them, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, and I think what was so great about it is he acknowledged that what I was at that moment was the fan and the kid that he was at one point, and he didn't lose sight of that, you know, and he
Yep.
understood that that moment meant more to me than it would to him, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
just like, wow, that
Yeah.
was so cool. What a class act, you know? So yeah, much respect.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I had that with, and I've mentioned her before, but I had that with Afua Richardson. She's done like covers for Marvel and DC and stuff. And I mean, not to date myself, but like I actually like found her on MySpace, right, for her
Yeah.
music, because she sings. And then I realized she did art and she did stuff with through Illustrator, which is how I learned how to ink, because she taught me how to ink using Illustrator over AOL Instant Messenger.
No way. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's
Like I was
cool.
like, I want to really get into inking and whatnot. I
That
want to
is
use
so
Illustrator.
cool.
Can you just give me a few pointers? And she did. She would take screenshots of what she was working on and like explain it to me. Like I think it was like 3-4 days of just us talking back and forth all day long on Instant Messenger. And now, like I go to a convention, you know, like we went to last year. We went to Miami SuperCon. I took my two oldest with me. And she was there, and I went there, and you know, I waited. She was talking to fans, like obviously there's like tons of people standing there talking to her, right?
Sure.
But she was like, "Hold on, guys, I want to say hi to my friend." And she like stepped around her table, like to come give me this hugest hug. It like took her time, like, "Oh," I was like, "I don't want to bother you from your fans." She's like, "I just wanted to come say hi." She's like, "Oh no, it's okay. Like I haven't seen you in forever. I wanted to say hi and whatnot." So like, I mean, to me, that's cool. And then when I saw her again at New York Comic Con when I was in school, because we got to go to the con for free. And well, I guess not free, it's tuition, but you know,
Yeah.
she took like a half hour because I told her I was having issues with perspective, like in regards to like panels and rooms, right? And she took like a half hour just to sit there and draw how she does perspective for me right there in front of on her desk. I'm like, I'm so sorry for occupying your time. She's like, no, it's great, no problem.
That's amazing. You know, I mean, that's being a class act, and that's
Right.
those are the things that you're remembered for, you know, and those are the things that extend beyond yourself. You know, Roland and I talk about teaching, right? You know, he teaches at Full Sail. You know, currently I teach martial arts, and it's like teaching other than parenting, right? Teaching is the next step where it's something that extends beyond your lifetime, you know.
Right.
So a part of you goes to somebody else and then they use it, and if it's good it keeps going, and that's the best. Those are the best moments. That's the best part of you, right? And so the fact that she did that and continued consistently to have that just speaks volumes to her character. That's amazing. That's so cool. That's really great.
Yeah, she's super cool.
That's cool, you know. And then of course we probably don't want to say it on there, but of course then there's the other people where it's like, oh my gosh, this person's my hero, and you meet them and it's like, oh my god.
I've had that happen so many times.
Yeah.
I just really got disinterested in meeting anybody. The last person though kind of gave me hope, and I hate that he did. It was Tim Russ. He's the one who played Tuvok on Voyager.
Oh yeah.
That dude was so nice. He stopped everything he was doing to talk to me. He's not a comic book guy, of course, but man, he actually gave me faith again in people, and I kind of hate that he did, because you know I had like a little bad run of meeting people that I really wanted to meet, you know.
Yeah.
And man, and it was just a little tiny con over in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And he stopped, he talked to me, talked to my daughter, and told us about the show and all the stuff he had coming up. And I mean, he had no reason to tell me all this stuff. He had no reason to talk to me. I mean, I wasn't going to further him at all. And we talked about some of his past works. And man, I left there 10 times the fan of that guy,
Right.
Tim Russ, folks.
I felt the same way about Michael Dorn.
There. Yeah. Oh,
really?
yeah. Yeah.
The dude that played Worf, like he was super like nice, like such a nice guy.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, when I was working on that film project, it was funny because some of the people I met, it was just like these, very well known or established male actors, and you'd be like, why are you so insecure? Like when you meet them in person, you realize just how insecure they are, And then there
Yeah.
were other people that were just completely cool, like for a long period, I was working with Michelle Rodriguez on that project, and we would work on scripts and meet up and do stuff. And that was like, I didn't even know if she's acting because she's almost exactly like the character
Oh
in all
man,
the
that's
movies
cool.
she's in. Yeah, and I remember we went to Coachella, the music festival together, and I rode with her, and I'm not used to people racing. I didn't really understand the culture, but she was in a Beamer, and every now and then I'd be like, why is she putting on her hazards? I don't understand why she's putting on her hazards. And then we just take off, and she would be cutting lanes, and I was so sick by the time we got to Coachella. She was laughing at me, and I'm usually was very amicable towards her, but when I got out of the car, she goes, "You look like you are pissed at me." And I just left, and I went into like some bathroom and barfed my brains out. It was horrible. It was brutal, but but yeah, it's but I
That's
mean,
hilarious.
it's those tiny moments, right? I mean, here we are talking about all our different experiences, and how much time did that add up for those specific people? Maybe a handful of hours here and
Right.
there, but for us, still to this day, right? I mean, that's
I try
great.
to emulate that, like, because I did was it old time comic show Sunday, right? So, and
Yeah.
it's the first time it's ever been put on. It was like basically organized by one of the local comic shops, and I actually met a kid at Books a Million, and they had like a dollar bins of comics, that like stuff that floppies that they had that they're trying to get rid of and whatnot. And I don't usually go in there, but I happen to walk in there, so I'm like, I'm gonna go in there and see what they got. And this kid's like, oh, nobody hardly ever comes back here, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hardly ever come in, so. And then we're just talking about comics. Like, oh, do you know about this? I was like, well, yeah, I know about this guy, and I know about this guy. Like, this was done by this artist, and this is. He's like, you kind of know what you're talking about. I was like, yeah, it's kind of what I do, man. I was like, not to pat my own back and toot my own horn, but I'm a comic book artist. He's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, in fact, we're doing this convention, tomorrow. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm going to come find you. I was like, and he did. He came, he brought a couple sketches that he did, and he asked me to critique it a little bit. And I'm like, I critique it the way Jim Lee told us to critique it. You give 3 positives and 3 negatives, right?
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And so like, so I did, and he was like, "Oh man, thank you." Like, and afterwards, he started following me on social medias, and when I was like, "That's cool," just because I took extra time to to chat with this kid about, about art, what his influences are, and what I mean, what he likes, and like, I don't know, it was great. I love the fact that I can talk to someone, and which is funny on the other end because I'm not very good at talking to people, like at all. I'm really bad at it. Like people will come up to the table and like, "Hi." Like that's it. Like my friend Jay that was there with me, he's all like, he talks, he's like, "Oh, how's the show going?" I'm like, "Oh, I like that shirt," like all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing right now. he's like, brother, we will work on you. Like we'll get you up there to be able to communicate with people. But he used to teach art to like elementary school kids too. He used to teach
Nice.
comic art to them. So
oh, that's so cool. That the thing too is that whether you know it or not, that could have been the make or break moment for that kid or that individual to actually pursue a career. I mean,
right.
that's one of those things. I mean, for every one of those, there's somebody that looks at it and goes, "This is crap. You're no good. I'm a professional. Trust me. You don't have it in you." And they don't get support at home or from their friends or whatever. And they're like, "Okay, fine. I'm out."
Right. And I
so
understand that because
yeah.
that, like I said, that happened to me. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
I probably would not even be doing comics right now had it not been when I was 15. I loved comics. I loved everything about them. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I had it in my head, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be a comic book artist, well known. But I probably would not be doing comics after I learned better had it not been for I called up Stephen Butler,
Mhm.
and he talked to me for, and this happened a few times. He talked to me for hours,
Wow.
and he didn't know me. And it was just spread over like a lot of years that we talked from time to time. But man, that was just so encouraging. Here's this guy who's
Mhm.
in comics,
Right.
and he's so when I would get harsh criticism, it would it just didn't bother me as much, and it did make me want to get better. Just because I knew somebody, was trying to help me out, and it really, and he probably doesn't know what, and I haven't told him. I probably should tell him, but how much that meant to me, especially then, being a 15-year-old confused kid, confused about
Right.
everything.
You should tell him, because you never know when they have issues. Tommy
Well, if
says,
you know Steve, and I know you do, I don't want to get too mushy with him. He'll he'll rag me pretty hard. So
well, Tommy Flormonte just chimed in. He said, "Sorry, I'm late. Can y'all start over?"
Just for
Sure,
you,
Tommy.
Tommy. Yeah.
Hi,
welcome
That's
everybody.
I'm Curtis Fujita. Welcome to Silverline Show
I'm
on.
Quentin Bedwell, and I'm working on Trumps.
I'm so confused right now.
All right. Okay. We got ha 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 in caps from Tommy. So thank you, Tommy. And Tommy, if you wanna hop in, I'll put the link up on the regular Silverline message just in case you want to hop in. But if not, you're more than welcome to make snide comments in the background.
That's right.
We appreciate that. So, but so talking about people who make or break, right? I've said this on the show, so again, forgive me if you heard it before, but I had already worked in comic books through high school. I just did editing, and then I did do some coloring, but nothing majorly noteworthy. But I did have some experience, and I went to art college, and I was dying to do the comic book class, and I had to wait until senior year to do the comic book class. So here we are, we're in it. And the comic book teacher just hated everything I did, and made sure to,
Wow.
and not supportive at all, made sure to call me out in front of the class. He would actually yell at me in the class.
Ugh.
And I was actually going through a rough patch. I'd broken up with my girlfriend also, so I wasn't in the best headspace. But dude would actually say in front of the class, "You will never work in comic books," right? Not knowing that I had, in some shape or form. So I waited until I came back to LA for a break or whatever, and I was talking to some of the people that used to be the heads of Malibu Comics, and talking to them about this guy, and they said, "Well, what's his name?" And I said his name, and they go, "Oh, him." What do you mean? And they go, "Oh, he can never meet his deadlines. The whole industry knows dude does not meet his deadlines, and that's probably why he's teaching right now instead of actually working in the industry anymore." So I
Yeah.
filed that away. I didn't call him out or anything. Got through the whole semester, skated by. Right after college, start doing some freelance work, and I applied for this job storyboarding. And it was funny. It was David Carradine Kung Fu. They were doing like a web animated series. So I applied for the job. They were like, "Hey, you're great, but we got somebody more experienced." I said, "Okay, that's cool." So about a month passed, and another company I had done storyboards for said, "Hey, you got to contact these guys. They need somebody right quick." So I contacted them, and it was the same company that I applied for doing storyboards. And they said, "We need you to come in. The guy that we got to do the job just wasn't meeting his deadlines." So I said,
Oh
"Okay."
boy.
So I go into the office, and I'm meeting with the art director, and he's going over the boards, and the boards are gorgeous, but they're not storyboards. They're like finished artwork, right? It's one of those guys that's doing storyboards for himself instead of for storyboards. And he says, "Yeah, we need you to pick up like these 2 episodes." I said, "Okay." And no sooner does he say that, my teacher from comic book class walks into the office, into the bullpen, and looks at me from across the bullpen and yells. And he goes, what the hell are you doing here? And the art director looks at him and says, well, Curtis is here to finish the job that you couldn't finish.
Oh man.
Man, burn. Holy moly.
And so then he tries to save face like he's still my teacher, and he's like, oh well, you may want to use a B pencil because you can get the thicker outlines, because
Right.
all that kind of stuff. But I replaced him, so it was the best revenge is when you don't have to do anything and it just falls in your lap, and that was one of those.
Did you assume the Superman pose when they said that? You're like,
Yeah.
exactly.
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh, it felt so good. It was like, and the saddest thing is, had I not worked in comic books and had positive experience, I might have believed him. This guy might have been the only person that I knew ever that had worked in comic books, and he told me I would never work in it. So it's funny that way, right? You have a lot of influence on people sometimes. But yeah.
Hey Curtis, what do you think about this brush I'm using right now? It's not white. It's the Neil brush. No, or I say it's just a regular brush, but it's the Neil color, like no color.
I love that.
It's so cool, man. I love it.
I use it to erase too. Like if I'm just trying to get some nice kind of clean up an edge. I love that thing.
Yes. It's perfect for this, doing these little things like this right here. Boom.
Nice.
Boom.
That's great. That's what I like about, even though we don't all work on the same project, when we share stuff on Facebook messages and we see that, I learn from you guys, just by seeing how you do things, and I know you were saying that you're open to criticism, but sometimes I get that just by looking at your stuff. I look at your stuff and say, oh, I could have done this
on
XYZ, so.
Well, your robot again.
Sorry. There you go. You're back.
Wolf pages you did.
Sorry, you're still a little discombobulated. Sorry.
Yeah.
I might have to switch headphones.
Okay. Yeah, just hold that thought. We'll get back to you in just a minute. Yeah, but no, that looks great.
Yeah, I've been having to really look at as I get to the end of this, because a lot of people don't know this, but Pete has been doing issue 4 while I've been doing 3.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to see, and as I get closer to the end, our stuff, mine and Pete's, meets up. So I've been studying his pages and, his first few pages to make sure I get people where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so that whenever you go into book 4, it's not like, looking at totally different stuff. And let me tell you, he really set the bar high on me.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about when I see other people's stuff, and I'm like, man, what am I doing? Yeah, I've got to get a little faster and get a little better.
Well, what I always enjoy about your stuff is I really like how solid and you can see the volumes on everything. I like how it feels 3-dimensional. That I always think that's such a strong point of all the stuff you do. It's always nice to see.
I don't know how I do it. It just comes out.
I think it's cool that so many of us have kind of different styles, and the books are so different, and the funny thing, half of them are written by Roland, but they're so different, so that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I really appreciate that. I try to work hard on the inks and separating I just see some people do these black and white areas, and they look so balanced and so like, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Definitely. Yeah, it's cool, and we have people with like all the different levels of ability, but different experience, right? I mean, like I would say out of all of us, I think Dean's probably hands down the most experienced, most amount of years and work under his belt, but he's just as supportive as anybody else on there. He always has a nice thing to say, and so positive, and we all have our day jobs. We all have our lives, you know, and like that's the cool thing is I always feel like Silverline Online. It's like a little comic convention every now and then. You know,
Yeah, it is.
you
Yeah,
know that's
totally agree.
what's so great. You know, and I hope more people keep watching our streams. I think one of our strong points is the fact that we're making comics while we talk about them. You know, there's so many live streams where people talk about things, but you can actually watch us making stuff. I mean, that's tremendous.
Yes. Well, that was one of the reasons why I tuned in the beginning was, hey, these guys are doing comics right here online. Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. And I watched, and then I watched again and again and again, and then I started. I'm very much a lurker.
Uh-huh.
That sounds a little strange.
You like to watch.
I like to watch. But now you got me off. But anyway, I then I started commenting, and
Mhm.
then and I knew Roland already, and
Yeah.
eventually, when I got some time, I was like, "Well, Roland, is there anything I can do to help out with Silverline? Because I like you, and I believe in what you're doing, and I wasn't actually looking to do a book.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I was not." But he said, "Well, you want to do a book?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we could talk. I don't know what I would do, but and it just kind of went from there. And
Yeah.
man, it's just been awesome ever since.
Oh,
Ever since
oh, that's
I had just kind of gotten away from doing uh, anything like that, just because of work and all that stuff, and you know how it is, life.
Mhm.
Got 2 little ones, and, but man, I was like, this is something I like these books. They're family books. They're not, political on either side. I love
Yes.
that,
Yeah. Thank you.
and
Amen.
and I was just like, if I were to work for any kind of comic book company at all, ever,
Mhm.
this is the kind of place that I would want to be associated with, and that's what got me involved. And
Mhm.
it's been good ever since. And I've not met a single person yet
Mhm.
at Silverline that I don't like. And that's not that that's normally an issue when I go somewhere, but I'm just saying everybody seems to get along really well, and you know, I just it's awesome.
Definitely. And Jose, looks like Jose's back. Everything's good to go.
I don't know. You let me know.
Yeah,
Is that
sound great.
better?
You sound
Yep.
good. You sound good.
Cool.
You're back in it. So you were. Do you recall what you were going to say before we
I have no clue what I was going to say.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry about that. Well, Quentin was just remarking about how kind of Silverline, in terms of the art and the books, is apolitical, or kind of that kind of thing. We're more about the story for the story's sake, and I appreciate that. It's not that all of us don't have our own views and
Right. Yeah.
opinions, um, and but really, I think one of the guiding lights, and Roland didn't even have to say it. We're just kind of a collective of like-minded people in this sense. I think we just want to tell good stories, have fun, and make good books, and the story always seems to come first with what we do, which to me was never really anything revolutionary. But I think more and more in the current climate, it's one of the unique characteristics of our books that I'm really proud of.
Yeah,
Right.
man, when I sit down to a comic book or whatever it is, I am trying to escape all this mess.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm trying to get away from real life. I
yeah,
want to get into a world that I've never seen, that
yeah.
I've never been in, that doesn't have these same sets of problems that this one seems to be plagued with. And I don't want to, you know, I just don't want that in my entertainment. It's not entertainment then.
Mhm.
It's just more of the same. And I love that about Silverline's apolitical stance on things.
Definitely. I think that's a huge thing, and I think it's also kind of like, there's that saying, everything that's old is new again, and like this is the way it more or less was originally the case. but things have gone so in the opposite direction that now we're kind of on the cusp of something revolutionary by doing that. Speaking of artistic license, to kind of bring it back and tie it in. Okay, so let's talk about the pop culture elephant in the room, which is artistic license when you inherit a previously established franchise. What do you guys feel in terms of like what artistic license can you take with it? Visually, storytelling, how much do you keep of what's old? Do you interject what's new? I mean, that's something that I see a lot, at least on a lot of the current, podcasts and live streams and stuff like that, and kind of a big contention. Do you guys have any opinions either way, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm an old man,
Yeah.
so I like things to be kept as close to the original. Like, I mean, in regards to like Ninja Turtles, I mean, the original were kind of scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're creepy.
Like, they were hardcore.
Yeah, I love
And
them.
then my Ninja Turtles growing up were the cartoons. That's what I remember. And then they had another cartoon, and then one that came out like, was it in 2020 or something like that, which I thought was really cool. It was very, very CGI, but not
Turtles in
terrible,
Time, or
no, the series, and it brought like it really focused on like the character, like on the turtles and like Shredder and Karai, and you know what I mean. I just realized that like they kind of like de-aged April O'Neil and made her like a teenager, and Casey as well. And I like that. Like that was an interpretation. They changed the look of them, making them slimmer, more like teenager esque, right?
Yeah.
And I like that. I thought that interpretation and like that idea of changing them a little bit, I thought played really well. But then they came out with the newer ones that, and I know I'm not saying it in a bad way, but like they came out looking kind of almost like Steven Universe to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Just like my Thundercats were like the Thundercats from like the 80s and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had like a 2-season remake, which I thought was interesting. It was an interesting take. And then they had again Steven Universe style.
Yeah, the Thundercats roar, right? That was that
and
roar. Yeah.
Steven Universe in and of itself, very interesting, very different, like art style, and it works for it. But you can't take the same thing and just keep plugging it into other IPs and when other like IPs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's kind of like if you've become so far removed from the actual property, then why did you choose this property? It's kind of,
right.
It's like a hamburger, right? I mean, there's certain characteristics of a hamburger, and and I, other than like recently they have the Beyond Burger, and if you had the Beyond Meat, that actually tastes pretty similar to meat. It's still not the same thing, but in the past when I had they'd be like, well, this is veggie bacon, and it doesn't even have remotely the taste of bacon. Well, it's not bacon anymore. It doesn't have the characteristics. So, I think it's that's the way I always feel. I always kind of hope that the people that are in charge or get the creative license to do something with the property know the property at least.
Oh, I know.
And care about it to some degree. Otherwise, I don't know why, why would you give it to somebody? I don't understand,
Right.
That is so much the problem nowadays, though, is they give these things to people. And, I know, that there is some wisdom in giving something to somebody who has not been affected by it, so they'll have a fresh take on it. I get that. But at the same time, when they do something that doesn't work, they wonder, well, why is everybody so upset? Well, if you cared about something that they come along and change, and
Right.
totally revamp their storyline, that stuff in an established character, then you would be upset too. It just depends on the IP that you care about. If somebody, comes along and does all that, and they wonder why, people get so upset and they call them all kinds of names and gatekeepers, and these characters are everybody's characters and all that kind of stuff. This character is just not for you. I just think it's awful because they disrespect the characters, the creations, the creators, the fans when they do that. And I just think there's a respectful way to do things. I believe in iterations. I mean, I believe in the Turtles being remade for the next generation. I mean, I don't expect them to be, I mean, they just die off if
Yeah.
they
Right.
weren't reintroduced to the new
Sure.
generation. But at the same time, can we do it without going from the ground up, and instead of changing everybody's total backstory and making this one a female and making this one something else? I don't even know what you could do with turtles, but I'm just saying, I think that's where you get into areas where you can keep the core elements of the characters and change all the stories around them. That's what I say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a big part of it is it's not a matter of whether you can or not. And that's the thing, is it's like, well, I'm the person heading this project. I can do whatever. Yeah, you can, but understand that if you stray it so far away from what I originally liked, I definitely am well within my right not to like it.
Right.
Exactly.
I came to the burger restaurant to get a burger, and all you serve is Jello. I'm within my rights to say, I think the best thing is when my wife and I started dating, right? Like gelato had just become a big thing, in LA, and they had different gelato places. And so we wanted gelato before the movie. And we went to this place, and it was called Gelato Day, like gelato today, gelato day.
Yeah.
And we went in there, and there was no gelato. It was all frozen yogurt.
What?
And I guess they thought gelato was more popular, so they changed the thing. But I felt that I was within my rights to feel, upset that I didn't get gelato, because gelato was on the banner outside,
Right.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of gelato.
definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. Just a lot of shenanigans going on nowadays with stuff and properties, and it's they want to make things for the new generation and all that. And I'm 100% behind you, but at the same time, if you kill the thing that made it great, just for the sake of putting your stamp on it, you kind of defeat the purpose, and you ruin uh, a whole generation's first look at a character that people have grown to love, and has been actually a part of their life. I know that characters that I like, they've been a part of my life, part of my childhood, and you go to messing with stuff like that. If you don't do it respectfully, you're messing with people's, a very intimate part of people's minds, their memories,
Right.
that's all I say.
I mean, you don't have to make the old geezers happy, but
No,
at
and
least
I want to
give us
see
some
something
homage.
new.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to where we started. We were talking about artistic license, right? And we were talking about when, if you're in an art class or whatever, and there's always that one person that puts the art up on the board, and then somebody doesn't like it because it doesn't relate to them or whatever, and they say, well, that's my style. You don't understand. And we also talked about the idea that if you have to explain your art in order to try and get somebody to like it, instead of them looking at it and absorbing it, then you're not really doing your job, right? So
Yeah.
why are
You
we
defeated the purpose.
Yeah, so if we're in this kind of era and of speaking movie studios and TV shows and stuff like that, where they have to explain their art and force you verbally to try and like their things, maybe there's a similarity to
Yeah,
that kind
or
of thing.
shame. Actually shaming people for not liking it,
Yeah. Because at least in the first, the original Star Wars films, I don't think George Lucas was out there having to explain to people why they should like it, right? The reason that they should like it was on the screen.
Yep.
Right?
That's
So,
right.
there's something got lost along the way, So, yeah. Well, we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Nothing else, right? What would be, we're talking about interpretations and iterations. what would be something that you guys would say is a great example of that? Something that's like, hey, that they reinterpreted this character or this comic book or this movie, and they went in this direction, but I liked it. I think they nailed it, by using their artistic license.
Hard to say.
Nothing.
There
yeah.
have
No,
been, there have been, things that I've liked. I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but for the most part nowadays, I barely even watch shows or movies anymore, just because of the stuff that they're doing to them. So it's kind of hard to say. Well, I would actually say if you back up all the way to the earlier installments of the MCU, I really liked the way they brought the characters to the screen. I really liked that. I enjoyed it. I thought they were faithful to the characters, even though they changed a lot of stuff. I knew that it needed to be changed for screen. And I think they did a really good job. I think they did a good job there. It seems kind of since then that things have kind of been faltering, though. Things aren't getting translated the way they were.
Yeah, I think the essence was there, right? I mean, they did a great job. It's like I do kung fu, and there's all these kind of esoteric terminologies and stuff like that, and and my teacher, mainly spoke Chinese, and my classmate who would talk, the best ones would be the ones that would interpret, not translate. They wouldn't say exactly word for word. They would express the main idea, and I think that's kind of what was great about those early films, and even visually. I mean, like Captain America, the way that they visually pulled off that costume, which should not be able to work on film whatsoever,
Yes.
was phenomenal. I mean, it was just like they freaking nailed it, So I think that was a great example.
And what's funny about that is they did different iterations every movie. I mean, he was bright one movie, he was old and dusty in the first one, but then in the second one he was super bright, and then they went darker and darker, and then they went more monotone with it. They did a lot of great things with it.
Yeah. And I like how he had that kind of like that stealth suit in Winter Soldier in the beginning, which like there was no red, just like all blue and white.
Yes. Yep.
But it still felt like Cap, So
I was told, and I think it's pretty solid, that the earlier, like the way phase 1 and 2 or whatever of the Marvel movies, it was very easy for people not comic book related to jump into the characters because it's established people that they know. Like throughout my entire life, there were action figures for Captain America. There were like, Captain America and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. You know what I mean? It's very easy to immerse yourself into those. And then he also said, but they're really stretching on this next phase because you're bringing in characters that people don't really know. Like he didn't know who the Eternals were. You know what I mean? He didn't know who Black Knight was. He didn't know who American Chavez, right? Or Chavez American. Who's going to be like? I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen the trailer for the Doctor Strange, but like you can tell that's who that character is because of the blue jean jacket she's wearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he goes, I don't know who those characters are. I was like, oh, it's this character. It's like, oh, who's that? I'm like, oh, okay, let me educate you for a minute. So like again, like you said, if you have to explain it, then you've lost the translation somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, has that ever worked? Has an artist or somebody ever gone like, no, see, you don't get what I created. It's because of X, Y, Z. Oh, now I like it. Now you got me.
Yeah.
I just explained my way into the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
That's right.
But yeah, no, that's definitely the case. And I think again, it's great to have new things. But if you want the return customer, there has to be things that they like still.
Right.
It's like if McDonald's took, back to burgers, because easy explanation. If McDonald's took all the burgers off their menu and they were like, okay, we're going to kill this one off, this one off, this one off, this one off, not the same experience, not the same thing,
Right.
Yeah. But Yeah, no, definitely. I mean,
Well, if you're making a, if you, and this is what comic books are good for, there's an established audience.
mhm,
So it's a safer bet, and that's what Hollywood likes, is a
yeah,
safer bet with a
yeah,
established audience. But then you got some cat that gets these things, say, oh, well, we're not making it for them. We're going to make it for this new generation. Well, you're missing out on a lot of people who
Yeah.
are already invested.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, and we
Uh,
listen to them too, right? I mean, that's what happens. You go, okay, it's not meant for me. I'm not welcome in this establishment.
exactly. And they miss
Or
out
or
on,
I'm no longer welcome here. I think I'll move on.
yeah. I mean, if you strip away from the character everything that, we loved about it,
Yeah,
then it's no longer the character that we were asking for, hoping for.
yeah,
Then you're going to have to rely on this new audience, their word of mouth, because word of mouth, is what drives more
Right.
things than people realize.
hmm
uh, if you can do at least a little fan service and give people what they want, oh my goodness, they'll just I mean, that's what keeps people going back to the theater. That's what gets some people in there to start with, is hearing somebody else say, dude, did you go see this Spider-Man?
Right.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I was going to skip it. Well, let me tell you, you need to go watch that. And then
yeah,
they'll go watch it. That's how I went and watched Spider-Man. I was kind of afraid to watch Spider-Man. And man, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's one of the best movies I've seen. I think it put a cap on all the things that I kind of wish they'd have done. It seemed to complete the stories better and more of
hmm
the stories that they went back and were kind of dealing with. To me, uh,
Yeah, there was closure for for the Spider-Man,
yes.
and I thought that part was pretty cool.
And I think it
Like
must have
that
been great for
aspect.
the actors, right? They got kind of closure because both of the other actors didn't really have the opportunity to finish off. They had other things in the works that were supposed to come out, so I thought that was really cool.
Well, yeah,
Right.
especially Garfield seemed like when they moved things over to the MCU, they kind of showed him the door. It was good to
Yeah,
see him be able to come back and pick up the mantle again, and almost like put it into a little bit more of a good end to his character, his run anyway of
Right.
Spider-Man.
definitely, and yeah, no, I thought it felt like the MCU movies from before. It had that. I felt good after I saw it. I enjoyed
Hmm.
it,
Right.
and it just felt good. I think there's something to be said for sincerity and intention. It's like if you see any performer, you can usually tell when they're dialing it in if you go to a concert or whatever. But you can, when you go to a concert and the person on stage is having fun and they're enjoying it and they're in that zone, that's like that X factor that just goes through the audience, and the audience can feel it. And I think that's some of what we're talking about too, when it's productions where it's done for the right reasons and there's that sincerity. Um, the audience reads it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool,
Mhm.
seeing him do all this extra stuff and wearing the costume and showing up at parties and that kind of stuff. He loves his character.
Yeah.
He loves the character of Deadpool, and he does. That makes me feel so much better about it all too, because
Mhm.
Yeah,
he
he went to
likes it.
children's awards dressed as Deadpool as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That right there. I know Dwayne the Rock Johnson playing Shazam. I can't wait for that. He's been
Oh
wanting
Oh
to
yeah.
yeah,
play
playing
Shazam for
Black Adam.
years,
To be cool. Yeah, Black Adam.
and I cannot wait to see that movie. I hope they don't mess it up. I hope they don't mess it up. But I
Uh,
feel like with
right.
him at the helm, maybe they'll be good. Uh, who knows? But I love to see somebody get into their character as opposed to somebody who kind of treats everything like, well, I got paid. You
Yeah.
know, uh,
Right.
um, I don't like that attitude at all. Well, it was a job. I went and done it and I got paid and that was it. Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I love Harrison Ford, but he treats all of his
Yeah.
movies like
can
a
you
paycheck.
act like you care?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just watch him on these talk shows when somebody asks him about Han Solo. Oh my goodness, or Star Wars. He just gets,
Uh-huh.
he just gets so upset. And I don't know if it's manufactured or if he's got some sort of humor that is trying to, he's trying to depict, but he really does not act like he likes, anything to do with Star Wars or the character or any of that stuff. Tommy Lee Jones, I love Tommy Lee Jones, but if you ever watch him in interviews, that's kind of the attitude that he has with his movies. Is he's very professional. He's very well, I showed up, I did the job, and that was it. I got paid. you know.
You know,
Uh,
I'll have to say from my experience in Hollywood, it is like that. I mean, there's that constant thing where you realize, oh, I like this person because somebody else put words in their mouth,
yeah. Yep.
But I'm enjoying the conversation, but actually we're already at the end of the show, if you can believe that.
What?
Holy cow.
Man, I almost got done inking her. Of course, just the outlines, but yeah, I was zooming through and talking. I can't believe it.
See what
I
happens
can't believe it.
when you put 3 like-minded comic book artists in a live stream at the same time on a Tuesday night. Go figure.
Man.
Well, on that pleasant note, folks want to go around, we'll go around, everybody kind of give your social media contacts and any news or anything you want to share, and we'll close out this thing.
Sure.
All right, so let me see if I can do this right. All right, we're going to put a solo on Quentin. So Quentin, you can go ahead and tell folks where they can find you online.
You can find me, Quentin Bedwell, on Facebook, also Instagram. Try to visit those places as much as possible. Sometimes I post art on there if it's pinups or whatever. Also on DeviantArt, haven't posted anything there in a while, but it's there. You can find me on the upcoming Trumps, and also on the stream every Tuesday night. My time in Texas is, I think we start at 10 and go to 12. So it's a little late if you're in my neck of the woods, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds good. And let's turn it over to Jose. Let me just switch this thing up here to get you your solo. And there you go. Feel free to tell the folks where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me under the bridge in Florida with the alligators. No, at Jose Fuentes Art at Instagram and Facebook, and I'm always on there to the detriment of my personality, evidently. But yeah, like I've been posting up pinup stuff that I've been working on, some sketches I've been working on for cons, and can't post any artwork yet for the books yet, but
sure you can.
Awesome. Yeah, right. I'll just give it all away.
I can vouch how awesome they are. I think Quentin can too, because we have the privilege to see it. And for me, again, my name's Curtis Fujita. You can find me online on multiple social media. The best way to find me is I have 2 websites for my 2 different passions. For martial arts, you can go to my website, tigercrane.net, and check it out there. And I have all my social media for that. The links are there. For my comic book, theshadowghost.com. Again, make sure you put the in front, theshadowghost.com. That's all about my upcoming comic book. I'm on the Sunday stream with the other Silverline crew, and additionally, we just dropped an episode of the Comics Foo Show. That's our show where we talk about comics, animation, and martial arts, and we have Brad Graber on. He's the head of Powerhouse Animation. It's a really great conversation with the head of the company that does Netflix's Castlevania and Seis Manos and Masters of the Universe and all that stuff. So you can find that on Silverline. And please, let me just take it off the solo. Please, everybody, please feel free to check out our Kickstarter. We are so close right now. We're only, again, last I checked, $75. We're at the very tail end. We appreciate all the support. We've had multiple ongoing successful Kickstarters. We want this to be another one of those. We really do appreciate everybody backing us, supporting us. We love making comic books that are fun, and we love knowing you folks are reading it. So please make sure to check that out. Do you guys finish by saying "Make mine Silverline," or is that a Sunday?
No. Yeah, we do.
You do? Okay. All right. Well, I think who wants to lead us into it? Let's see.
Oh, that's your job.
Here we go.
It is my job, isn't it? Is it my job? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it dramatically. Let me just finish.
Yes.
I always like beverage commercials. For everybody watching, there's two types of beverage commercials. There's the cold beverage commercial and the hot beverage commercial. The cold beverage commercial, you have to guzzle it and then wipe it on your face because it's so hot outside. It's like
That was good.
And then there's the hot beverage commercial, which is very nostalgic, which is they drink it and they look off in the distance, which is like this. Okay, so those are the two beverages, right? So, what do you guys think? Should we end it with the hot beverage or the cold beverage? What do you prefer?
Hot beverage.
Hot
I
beverage.
like them.
And I'll turn the camera.
How about the really hot beverage, like burning, scalding your tongue?
You use the hot one like it's a cold one, and just
Yeah.
I'll do the hot beverage, and then I'll look at the camera, and we'll do Make Mine Silverline. So it's gonna go like this. Make mine Silverline. Thank you. We're going to finish up with just one more time. We're going to play our Kickstarter information, and we'll close out the show. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I am Roland Mann, and I run Silverline Comics, the genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. And I'm here to tell you about our latest Kickstarter. I'm not going to waste any more time talking. John, tell us about Sniper and Rook.
Hey there. Thanks for stopping by. My name is John Medic, and I am the creator and writer of Sniper and Rook, now coming to you from Silverline Comics. Thanks for checking out our Kickstarter, and we hope that you'll go ahead and pledge. A little bit about Sniper and Rook. They are a pair of covert government operatives where they work underneath a specific general. They are tasked with missions that take them across the globe, across the world, across maybe the universe, since we're dealing with Area 51. Check it out. Pledge today.
Thanks, John. And now I get to tell you about the rejects. Come on, I'm so excited to tell you about this one.
When danger is near, we need heroes who can respond decisively and with authority. When evil is around, we need superheroes who can fight supervillains. But what do you do when the Fantastic Four is busy? When the Justice League is unavailable? When the Avengers are out of the galaxy? The world has no other option. They call the rejects. Rejected by all other respectable superhero teams, this band of misfits joins together to fight crime and injustice, and maybe get a mention on the evening news. They are formidable, ferocious, fearless, and forgettable.
John and I are so excited. Actually, we've been really anxious to do a Kickstarter together for like 2 years now. Maybe 2 years. Something like that. It's been a while. So, back it if you can, share it if you will, and remember to make mine Silverline.